we're going to use a meat that's been preserved already. So cold smoked salmon is going to be the base of our pate, and then all these little ingredients here I'm going to add into it. So first thing, and there's really, I'm going to try and make up some reason why this is a recipe and it's really difficult. It's not. Everything goes in there and you mix it up. Because most preserved meats are going to already have a salt component to them, they're going to use salt to preserve them in some way, whether it's been through a brine beforehand or it's an actual salted meat. Just be careful on your seasoning. And if you're going to add, I'm going to add a little bit of caviar to mine. If you're going to add that caviar, remember that's going to be quite salty as well. So don't season until the very end, because that's the one thing that probably people get wrong with potted meats, is they're over-seasoned. All right, smoked salmon, I've got 200 grams. I'm gonna chop it up a little bit just to make it easier to get into the little food processor. So just roughly chop it. Pop that in. You want this, if you can get a little food processor that you can get 3/4 full, that's about the, I was going to say fulledness, but I'm pretty sure that's not a word. That's about the volume of food that you want in the food processor. If my little girl was here, she'd growl at me for saying fulledness. All right, creme fraiche or mascarpone or sour cream, some sort of high-fat cream. Now, if you want to, normally people will use creme fraiche or creme fraiche because it's a little bit acidic. I'm going to use lemon juice to balance that out. I'm also going to use the lemon zest. So you get a microplane. Little tip for if you're using a microplane, a lot of people do that. Don't do that, because one, it's going to fall everywhere and you're not going to be able to control where it goes. And you don't really know how much of the zest you've taken and how much of the pith you've taken. So if you turn it up the other way and turn your microplane over, I can pull it back like that, and then I can see where to go next. And that way I'm just taking the zest and not the pith, and the pith is really bitter. The white is really bitter. So this way I'm just getting that yellow zest with all the essential oils, and it collects on top of my microplane. So I can see how much that I've got, and I can control it a little bit better. We go through, get as much of the lemon zest as you can. If you wanted to add, this is a very basic recipe, if you wanted to add capers or cornichons, this, even if you want to have olives, herbs, chives, anything like that, you can. So then you can just push that in and you've controlled, you know, the exact amount of zest that you've got in there. Juice, I'm going to start with the juice of half a lemon and then I'll add if I need to. Mustard and smoked salmon is an awesome combination, so I'm going to go about I'll start with half a tablespoon of mustard, some dried tarragon leaves. You can use fresh tarragon leaves if you can get hold of fresh tarragon leaves. A little pinch of salt at this stage, not a lot, it's a really small amount. I'm going to season later, remember. And that's it. You can put caviar in at this point and blitz the caviar up, but I think that you kind of lose the whole purpose of caviar, which are those little pops that you want to get, so you're going to leave to put on top. So we'll give this a blitz. And this is where you get to decide how chunky or how smooth you want it to be. If you're looking for a rillette, it's going to be quite chunky. If you're after a pate, it's going to be a lot smoother. All right, so at this point you're tasting to check for seasoning. And really, just to make sure you've got the right amount of lemon, so the right amount of acidity. So salt and acidity is what I'm looking for. Seasoning is good. So you saw how small the amount of salt that I put in there beforehand, and that's enough. It does need a little bit more lemon juice, a little bit more acidity. It's quite fatty, which is great, but I want it to cut through that a little bit. So I'm going to use the rest of the lemon, so the juice of a whole lemon. No more salt. Maybe just a touch more mustard. Just put the remaining amount of that in there. All right, That is our pate done. Like I said, it's very, very, very simple. It's a good base pate. You can then create more flavours on top of that. Like I said, fresh herbs, cornichons, capers, those sorts of things. Pop it into your jar. It is, after all, a potted meat. And this will keep for a couple of weeks in your fridge because you've got an already preserved meat. And this is where you can either put some of the little caviar pearls on top of that jar, or you can take the caviar with you and spoon some of it onto a cracker and then put a little dollop of the caviar on top. It's completely up to you.